Is this working? There we go. Hopefully you can hear me now. Probably got a few texts. Okay, so I think I'm back on track. I don't know what's going on with my my headset. Faith, can you hear me? Hello? Faith? I think I'm coming through now.
Yeah, I'm getting technical difficulties. One sec. On my end.
Ah, gotcha. Gabe, thanks for checking in. Hopefully you can hear me now. I really have no idea what just happened with the audio, but my microphone was working earlier. That's weird. Oh, so much for the first 10 minutes. Anyway, so I'm going to be working on this oil painting I've got going on now. Let's see, there it is. There we go. Hopefully you guys will be able to see this all right. Got my little palette going. Let's do this. Put my palette down here. So as I was mentioning before, I'm a huge advocate of going through and working in analog fashion. A lot of what we end up doing as tattooers is, it ends up coming down to muscle memory. Without going through and working in an analog way, it's really tough to develop that kind of muscle memory, because otherwise you're just working with a pen in like a very small little area. So I like to break out every now and then and, go through and really start working in a more analog fashion. So I've got some liquid over here. And if you guys take a look in the bottom right corner of my video, I've got a little bit of liquid, yellow ochre. This is French blue from a company called Chardin, who I really have started to like. Don't know if you guys can see the label clearly or not, but very rich, very creamy, very densely pigmented. Definitely like them a lot. Got some gel medium, solvent for gel medium, white, Payne's gray, and black. So I think I'm going to start. Put this on gallery mode.
I did a colored pencil a couple of days ago. I forgot what a pencil felt like a real one.
Right? Colored pencils rock.
I hadn't done one in 6 years. I could never get into colored pencil. I didn't understand how to like layer it or blend it or anything.
Essentially, the trick to colored pencil is, number one, the surface you're working on, and number two, you have to grind the shit out of it.
I got the tone tan paper.
Okay, that should be pretty receptive.
I figured that was like tone, right?
I don't know. Whenever I've gone through and used colored pencil, what I really like to do is work on design vellum. because design vellum, just like actual human skin, is translucent. So you can go through and not only can you, well, I mean, I guess tone paper works well too.
I just figured it wasn't what I was like. It was kind of peachy, like it's tan, but I don't know. I just
See, I
didn't want
like
to do
working on the design vellum because of the surface. It's got just enough tooth, but it's super smooth. So you can go through and it just lays right in there. It blends silky smooth. And it's almost like you're painting with colored pencils. That's just kind of why I like vellum.
In the street shop I was in for a little while, that was all they used for all their designs. They were so vellum and micron.
Yep. I like
It's
vellum
cool.
because it's a heavier weight than tracing paper. So it's not going to tear quite as easily.
Yeah, the
But it's
designs
still
like
just as translucent.
so much better, and they're just cleaner. It's like a really thick, nice, smooth tracing paper. Yeah, I don't really have a project plan. What should I do?
I don't know. I always like to go through, and I'm one of those people, and I was kind of called out on it earlier this week. A very good friend of mine, Kier, actually said that she really was impressed with my dedication, because I went through and I worked on this this watercolor rendering, just basically a color study, but I wasn't very happy with it. You know, finished it to completion, and then went back through and said, okay, yeah, this is version 1. Probably going to go back through and do it again. And she's like, wait, again? Like another version? And I said, well, yeah, you do it until you get it right. Right? I mean, I guess I just kind of always thought that that's what everyone did was, you know, if you do something once and it doesn't come out the way that you're thinking, you do it again and you keep doing it until it's right. But
I throw it in the back. Forget about it. It's only my plan. You know, seriously, I have it in the one corner of my big closet in the bedroom. It's like probably 10 paintings that didn't make the cut, or I just couldn't look at them anymore. You still there?
are they all finished?
They're like half finished. They're just, I didn't like where it was going, kind of a thing.
Gotcha.
And like it was like became an obsession, and I felt like I needed to move on from it.
So that's one thing that I really
Like
have to thank
they get gesso.
I have to thank Christian Perez for really keying me into something that I've really started to take to heart. And that's no matter what it is, no matter what work of art you start, finish it, right? Even if you hate it, finish it, because you're going to learn more. Even if you just kind of like blast through it and you absolutely hate it, you're going to learn more from finishing it than you are from just kind of scrapping it and moving on to the next piece. So I've
Usually
really kind of started to adopt that mentality, and it's been paying off.
Okay. I'm looking at the back of your head, I think.
Yeah. Damn it. I was trying to get the camera angle all set up right.
That's okay. I was just wondering if that was right.
Nope. Thank you for that. I do tend to get pretty close up whenever I'm painting. So I need to really start just like hanging back a bit more.
Nice. A tiny canvas. What should I do?
Well, my question is this. My question isn't what should you do? It's what do you know you need to work on?
Forms.
Well, then pick a form, pick a step, something to study, and just work on forms, work on shapes.
Crystal ball yesterday. You can see it. Did you see that? Trying to figure out how to do
Cool.
it turned out okay, but the ball was like a nightmare.
Yeah. What I like to do as far as anything that I'm doing that's glass, what I've found is really, really helpful to kind of show that it's translucent is go through, throw a bright highlight over top of whatever it is. Not obviously so big that it's going to be that it's going to like block out a lot of stuff, but definitely throw something in front of that so that that way that pentagram that you have there looks like it's pushed back a little bit more, as opposed to just kind of floating in the middle.
Yeah, I didn't. Well, on the side of it, it says, what does it say? I keep my visions to myself, so it's not supposed to actually show anything in the ball. So it was kind of like almost like a red X kind of thing, the pentagram, because you can't see it. But yeah, I need to put, I feel like it's just floating there.
Yeah, it looks like the pentagram is supposed to be on the inside of the crystal ball.
Right,
I think if you had added some more value in there, I think that would be helpful.
More value into the crystal ball?
Yeah, really show its translucency, right? Whatever it is that's behind it, you definitely want to show through it, if that makes any sense at all.
I think so.
So, I mean, for example, you've got the robe of the person that was holding the crystal ball, right?
Huh?
So what I would suggest doing is really showing some of those folds of fabric, but do it in a bit of a lighter value. That way it's going to take away some of the, it's going to lighten things up just enough that it's still going to be that clothing. But it's going to, by lightening up the cloth that you can see through it, it's going to give it the appearance that that you're actually looking through a piece of glass.
Gotcha. And I also have this one I have to do too, which is a watercolor spider lily.
Cool.
Which I mostly just colored it in. That one looks like it's gonna be fun. I haven't done a watercolor in a while.
Yeah, I typically try to stay away from like watercolor tattoos unless they have like a lot of black lines.
Yeah.
Just because I don't know about the longevity. I've had friends of mine that have gone out and gotten some watercolor tattoos done by some really good people. And I've seen them years later, and it's like, I just didn't, there was just almost no longevity.
What about like there's some people who do it like black and gray, which I don't.
Oh, like the ink splatter?
Kind of, but there's some watercolors it's not saturated. You know what I mean? Versus actually using color to. It's like they do black and gray and then it just fades right out versus actually changing the color, like adding white or desaturating it or something like that, and then putting it in solid.
Right. Well, I think that's what I'm thinking about. That real translucent kind of washy look. Those washy, translucent kind of color tones.
Right.
What's the longevity on that?
I can show you. Let me show you one that I've done. I mean, it's any color tattoo that I've done. It's the same kind of, like I put down my middle solid and then I put in. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I've only started doing them and doing them well. So I think that the way I do it's pretty easy. Do you see that one? Like it's definitely in there. It's not like.
Right. One little trick that I've learned how to do to kind of help gauge the longevity of whatever it is I'm working on is I'll take that and I mean, I don't use any kind of special program. I take it right into, I think it's like Photoshop for iPhone or whatever. You can get it for Android. It's like Photoshop Express or something.
Right.
I take it into that and I blur it out to about 10 to 15%. And that usually goes through and gives me a better idea of what it's going to look like, in 5 years or so.
I think just like a Gaussian blur. 10%.
Yeah, in Photoshop, well, yeah, if you do a Gaussian blur in Procreate, it's going to be a little bit different as far as the tolerance, but go through and blur out the whole layer, that whole photo.
Okay.
Right. If you're in Procreate, I think it's somewhere closer to 20%.
Okay. Well, you would know that.
And that'll give you like a 10-year preview as far as how is it going to look.
All right. So what's a form study I can do with paint using color contrasting or something like that? What can I do?
Well, if you're just working on form, I wouldn't even bother with color. I would just do black and gray.
I'll go crazy. I'll go crazy. Oh, let me use paint or something. Just paint and something.
Well, you can use paint, use black paint and white paint.
No, I know that. I don't have black paint or it's killing me.
Okay, so do monochromatic, right? Do dark purple and white, and those are the only colors you get.
Okay, I'll do that. Do what you tell me.
Because if you're just working on form, you're not worried about color. You're just literally working on form.
No, I get that. I like to dazzle my eyes a little bit.
And I understand that, but you asked what can I do to work on form, and it's like, well, if you're working on form, you shouldn't be worried about color.
No, but I figured too. I could contrasting colors and forms at once.
Well, so I would say, what do you need to work on the most?
Forms.
Okay, well then just work on forms. Don't worry about contrasting colors.
See how I'm trying to get out of it. That's why I know I need to.
I know. And that's why I'm trying to tell you, like, hey, listen, just work monochromatically. It's gonna help. One little piece of art advice I got when I was a lot younger that has stuck with me ever since is find out what you don't like doing and do that a lot, because the better you get at doing the stuff you don't like, when you get the opportunity to do the stuff that you do like, it's going to directly transfer over. And to date, that has held up. Yeah, I always like to try to push myself. Like if I know for a fact I don't like doing something, whether it's like, to be honest with you, I don't enjoy doing anything realistic. That's why I always try to push myself to do stuff that's more realistic.
Yeah.
So that way I know that that's going to directly carry over into the stuff that I do that's more graphic.
Can't even find a pencil. What is that?
So I'm actually really, really excited for tonight.
Say that one more time.
I'm really excited for tonight because I get to interview one of my all-time heroes.
Tell me about him. I don't really know anything about him, like just briefly.
So Chris Dunn is a Canadian tattoo artist whose work I personally fell in love with a while back. And that's going on at 7 p.m. tonight, Eastern time. Where we're going to be talking about, who he is, where he came from, what his background is, and all that kind of stuff. What really inspires him, what challenges he finds himself facing, on a regular basis. What has been some of the most beneficial information he's received, and why, what tips could he give people to improve on their artwork?
Who is he is what I'm asking.
He's a tattoo artist from Canada.
But why is he so well known?
Well,
Like,
it's not that he's even that well known. In fact,
Okay.
there are a lot of people out there that have never heard of him. But I fell in love with his illustrative style.
What style is it?
It's illustrative. It's
I don't
illustration based.
Oh, okay, I never heard that word before. Illustrative. Gotcha. Yeah, I'm starting to get into illustrative, but I don't know. I love
So that right there is actually a common mispronunciation. Illustrative is actually pronounced illustrative.
Okay, that's going to be a hard switch for the whole industry. I've never heard of that before.
Yeah, that's art school for you. Terminology can be everything.
I got that. Yeah, I'm supposed to be going through the fireside modules. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that. But I only made it through like the minute. And then I got
what, the fireside simplify?
No, the original. The core modules where it's just shapes and forms.
Ah.
So that was like, I figured I'd start there. I think it was like $30, and I figured I could just work on it when I had time, which is never. But yeah, I need some pictures or something. I'm gonna pull it up on my iPad. Is there the Atchison has some books for sale, right?
What do you mean?
Like an actual physical book that I could read, as opposed.
Not anymore. I mean,
No,
he's
it
got the
doesn't.
Biomech Encyclopedia.
I thought he had some books on his website. And I thought that was in the intro sometimes. That's why I was just asking what the books were.
No. So he stopped producing the books for print a while back.
Okay.
So those are no longer available.
Okay. Yeah, I was just looking for something I could take to the beach. That I could read.
Yeah, trust me, I've been trying to purchase an additional copy of the one that I have for a while. And yeah, just not, there are no more. Every now and then you can find them pop up on eBay.
Okay. What else? What can I read at the beach? That can be the topic of the day.
Well, you have an iPad, right?
Yeah, but I don't want to take that to the sand and the heat and everything. I'm trying to figure something I can, you know what I mean?
Anything by Bern Hogarth.
Hogarth? Is this an art book or a tattoo book?
It's an art book. Anything by Bern Hogarth, I would highly recommend.
I don't know. I was in a shop. I brought like all my books in for everyone, and I forgot them when I left. So I lost my entire art book collection, but it's kind of messed up.
Yeah, a lot of the art books that I have that I really have a high value for, like ones that I'll read and then reread and then reread and then reread and I'll look at constantly, they never leave my house. I made that mistake one time, and it was with a copy of the second edition of Reinventing the Tattoo. I lent it out to a friend of mine because he was really interested in reading the chapter Guy has in there on painting and building models. And lent it to him in good faith. I'd known this guy for a while. Apparently, one of his employees got really, really drunk one night and got really angry at him for some reason, went to the studio and started smashing everything up, including pipes. Some of the pipes burst, flooded the studio, destroyed the studio. And yeah, everything in the studio was completely destroyed, including my book. Now, I was lucky enough at the time that I did find a copy for sale on eBay. But as it stands right now, eBay is the only place you can actually go through and purchase a copy of Reinventing the Tattoo. And that's if I don't get to purchase it first. Because I've been stalking eBay.
Yeah, I've got like five art books left. I have like 50. I think they're good ones. They're too advanced though. They're like the complete guide to the human figure and drawing the head, stuff like that. God, I can't even think about anatomy.
I mean, I wouldn't really say that they're too advanced. You just have to go and do it with an open mind.
But I just like, I've tried like copying it, I've tried reading it, and it just, I never get anything out of it.
Try taking notes while you read it.
What do you mean taking notes? Oh, I know. It's not, they don't have a lot of the one that the big, huge anatomy book.
So I used to have a lot of problems with reading and retention.
Benjamin's drawing.
And what I found was that if I wrote notes down, even inside the book itself, like here's a term I don't know, look this up. And I'd put like a little flag or I'd highlight a section and then verbatim copy it down into a lined ruled notebook. That really, really helped.
Yeah, that's definitely for me. I write it down once and I remember it. But if I don't do that, then it just goes right out the other ear.
Yeah, so that I would recommend going through, try rereading it again, write everything down that you don't understand and look it up.
But am I supposed to like draw? I don't remember there being a ton of words. Like, am I supposed to just copy what's in front of me?
Well, a lot of times those anatomy books are basically there to try to explain different things, right? So what is this muscle structure under here and how does that impact, say the shape of the arm, right? How does the tricep impact the shape of the arm? How does, how do the ligaments in the top of the hand impact the shape of a hand? That kind of stuff. So it's helping you understand the form, and the more that you can understand the form, the better equipped you'll be to draw and paint it. Now, does that mean to say that you need to know the name of every single muscle or every single finger bone in the hand? No, I don't need to know what the bone is called that, connects the second joint of my pinky toe. I don't need to know that, right? I do need to know what the overall basic shapes are. And if I have a better understanding of anatomy and how different muscles work together, then that's only going to be an additional resource for me to tap into when it comes down to me understanding the form.
Gotcha. All right, I found a form to copy.
When in doubt, draw and paint your hands.
Really? I hate drawing.
If you can master drawing and painting your own hands and hands in general, half the battle is already won, because hands can be very tricky.
When I'm drawing forms, is there any type of real strategy, or I just do my thing? Like I know there's the separate the core shadow and the form shadow. Is there like
Well, are you talking about drawing forms as in drawing a human form? Or are you talking about drawing a form as in a pumpkin? Are you talking about what kind of form are you trying
This.
to draw?
This a cone? Like, do I
Okay.
just draw it or do I focus on anything?
So I would say go through and start out with a triangle with a curved base
Okay.
and just start drawing.
Okay.
And then I would take that reference, I would turn off the reference, and I would draw that cone from different, with light coming from different angles, then check it against the reference.
Gotcha.
Use that as like your answer sheet. Don't use that as, okay, I want to draw this, because then essentially all you're going to be doing is just looking at that and then copying that verbatim. But that's not going to teach you about light. That's not going to teach you about reflective shadows or, you know, cast shadows or reflective light. You know, a lot of it just comes down to practice. It's time for me to practice, you know, light source. So I'm going to draw this cube with light source, the exact same cube in 4 different ways with 4 different light sources.
I know, but I can't do that yet. So
Why
I
not?
think because I haven't studied them yet. How can I make them up in my head if I haven't studied them? Is my issue.
Well, I mean, what kind of study do you need to do?
I need to study the form in light in front of me so that I can understand how it works and then I can move on. Like I just found out that when you have, sorry, my cat, when you have like a solid edge of a cube, it like disappears or like goes off straight. It doesn't like, do you know what I'm saying? Like if it hits the side of a cube right here that's bright and it travels up this way, it doesn't like, it just goes off into nothing and doesn't continue. So that's why like just one side of the cube is brighter.
That's
But
if you have a direct light source coming from the side. Now imagine you had a direct light source coming from the top.
right, and it would kind of work the same way. But what I'm saying is I'm trying to figure stuff like that out before I can, like I studied basically the sphere and then I just moved on. I know the sphere. That's really not helping me very much.
It's going to be more helpful than you imagine, because there are a lot of
Helping me out.
things in life that are rounded.
I mean, just the sphere alone wasn't enough.
Well, no, sphere, cone, cube, those are
Right.
all basic shapes, right? Cylinders. And by understanding those basic shapes and how those basic shapes look, we can deconstruct everything in life into a basic shape somewhat.
That's what I'm saying. I miss some very fundamental principles of forms specifically. Like this is, as far as I know, this is the thing that I missed that's hurting me the most.
Yeah, it's one thing that I started to do back when I was in school that I was never taught to do, is I just started deconstructing everything. I was like, okay, so I need to draw a flower, let's say, right? So I'd sit down and I'd look at a flower, any flower, and I'd say, okay, what forms are there? What shapes do I see? Right? What is here? What is there? Is this more of a circular oval, or is this more of a very, very, you know, proportionate circle shape? Is this more of a triangular shape petal, or is this more of a, you know, an oval petal, or maybe it's a square or pentagonal petal? You know, just start breaking things down into basic shapes.
Yeah, I get that. I just, I don't know. I learned so much so fast that it's like, I know there are holes. A year ago in December, roughly, I figured out that the color wheel was a circle. And then if you leave yellow, you'll get back to yellow. I just never, like, basic things like that go over my head, like super simple things that if you're not told them, then you can get pretty far just faking it.
You can.
But you don't necessarily know that you're faking it. It's the idea that if I don't know how to do something, I can ask questions, but I don't know how to ask exactly what I need because I don't know what it is. Like I couldn't,
Yeah,
like
you don't know what you don't know.
a year ago, I couldn't be like, hey, can you teach me forms? Because I didn't know what the hell a form was, or that I should be studying them in the first place. And there's probably still things that are fundamental like that, or just in general that it's like, it's once you kind of get deep into art and you start to really understand it and stuff, I feel like it's like that with anything. But there's like a point where you get how hard it was or how it was like to not know things that are so fundamental. Like we've been doing language for so long, maybe we don't think to teach somebody the alphabet kind of a situation. Like we just start talking about words. And then a lot of people get lost because of that, in my opinion.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's like, how do you start teaching someone to code? You have to teach them how to use a computer first.
Exactly, or just what an object is or anything like that. Like, or before you do that, what a program is.
Basics, absolute basics, and then build from there.
Computer is on off. That's it. 1 and 0. That's what a computer is. That's why it makes sense to me.
Yeah, it's finite. It's very definitive. It's yes or it's no.
Yeah, that's it. Binary.
Yep. My dad taught me binary when I was a lot younger. He used to work with computers a lot. He used to program in binary, hex. He used to do all of it. And we used to sit down and write like coded messages to each other when I was younger.
I had a binary watch for a while. I thought it was so cool.
Yeah, but I won't ever forget the one most important thing that he said to me that had stuck with me and led to my career in information technology. Why everyone always thought I was like a genius with computers. And it all stems back to one sentence that my dad taught me about computers when I was a lot younger. He said, listen, computers are not sentient. They do not do things on their own. They cannot make decisions. Computers will only do what they are told to do. If you tell them to turn on, they'll turn on. If you turn them off, they turn off.
Yeah.
If you tell them run this program, they'll run that program.
If you don't,
they cannot make those decisions on their own.
Computer with no input is just a stationary inanimate object.
Exactly. And I can't thank him enough for that. I really can't. Because when he said that, it's like everything clicked for me.
I started really early. I was ripping computers apart in like the early 90s before I even knew what they were.
Back when you still had to use 5 1/4 inch floppies.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, I remember that.
Like the first computer I built, it came in like 5 like full boxes. It was like this gigantic thing. And I just ripped it out and started putting it together and sticking discs in it, and just for some reason there was just no fear. Like if it broke, I just fixed it. Like I don't know why I can do that.
That was also back when things could be fixed.
That's true.
Nowadays, I mean, we're fighting it in Congress with right to repair laws and all that stuff. Yeah, I'm really excited for the interview tonight. I've got like a laundry list of questions I can't wait to ask.
I want to see. Look at his work.
Yeah, it's super graphic. You know, I wouldn't really call it traditional. I wouldn't call it neo-trad. I wouldn't call it any definitive style. They're very much illustration based. The tattoos that he does, they're very much illustration based.
And
Yeah, who knows? Maybe I'll actually make the trip up to Canada. I'd like to set up an appointment with the guy, Chris, that I'm interviewing tonight to have him finish up my upper torso. I think that would be pretty awesome.
I don't know who I would get a tattoo from if I like had to. Like I just go to local artists, but if I could pick anyone in the world.
Well, why can't you pick anyone in the world?
I mean, I can, but I'm just saying, I don't really think like that. Just affordability, travel, that kind of stuff. I just go to people who are within driving range for the most part.
See, a long time ago, if you get the chance and you ever really want to watch something that will key you in to like a lot of just like, I don't want to say the secrets, but like good strategies for working in the tattoo industry, highly recommend picking up a copy of Brandon Bond's The Whole Enchilada.
What is it?
It's called The Whole Enchilada. It was a DVD set that Brandon Bond released a long time ago. Some of it's not really relevant anymore, but some of it was like mind-blowingly inspirational. One of the principles he puts forth is if you want to do dope tattoos, find a dope artist and go and get tattooed by them. And then ask them all of the questions that you have. You know, there's no better way to learn how to tattoo than to get tattooed.
Yeah, no, I definitely get that. That's how I learned in the beginning.
That's how I still learn.
I moved up here because nobody down there was good enough or could do what I wanted to do.
And what do you want to do?
Well, at the time, I wanted to get value in my work. I didn't know what value was, or I didn't even know what the word meant. So this is the right one, right?
Chris Dunn, yeah. At Deadly Tattoos.
Mm-hmm. That's cool.
Yeah, the whole team up at Deadly is like absolutely incredible.
I feel like I've turned a corner in my tattooing a little bit, finally. I'd almost like given up on getting any better at actual like physical machine handling because I just couldn't figure it out, and I couldn't find anyone that would teach me anything. So I kind of just started basing all my designs around what I was capable of instead of trying to get better. if that made sense. Like I plateaued in my machine handling and I couldn't find anyone that could say anything other than I don't know. When I asked them, like, what are
Well,
you
what
doing?
questions did you have?
Just why. I couldn't figure out why. Any medium of art I can excel in without trying, but I just couldn't get any of my tattoos to look remotely as good as anyone else's, in my opinion. But I couldn't. But I
But
was
like,
just,
what machine questions did you have?
well, all the ones that I've been asking you for the last few months.
Which ones are those? Refresh my memory.
Fresh. Some things that stuck in was, doesn't matter which machine you use, just don't change it. Stuff like that.
Yeah, consistency. Run
Or
it where
the
you need to run it.
needles are sharp.
Yep.
That's the one that actually turned the corner for me. Because I was
Needles
just,
are sharp. It doesn't take a
I know,
whole lot of force to put them in.
like, how do I describe it? It's almost like if you imagine trying to like tattoo a balloon almost. Like, I know you obviously can't, but just how that top layer of the skin, like just stretching it and focusing on that thin top layer as opposed to focusing on like more of a, I don't know, solid object. It's almost like I was, like if I stretched it tight enough, I would go too hard and too deep. And if I didn't stretch it enough, then I would have to go harder. And it was like, I don't know how to describe what I'm saying. That's almost
Well,
like,
which machine were you using? Are you using?
well, the machine issue, I think I've solved it because I went back to Bishop. I'm just going to use Bishop wands. I have a wand shader and a
Okay.
CNC as a backup. But it's just it's like imagine if you're kind of like half-ass stretching the skin. So then when you go to tattoo, you have to like press or go a little bit harder, but you can't quite get the precise because the skin's kind of like, it's almost like there's a dip because you're not
Right.
stretching it tight enough. But then if you stretch it tight, you're still hitting it too hard. And then the sharp needles are just like tearing it up and destroying it. So there's like a middle ground where you have to stretch the skin the right amount and you have to not go too deep. And for me, compared to how I've been tattooing for the last 9 years, it feels like I'm being super dainty with it. And just like stretching it and just like barely like finessing it in kind of a thing versus just pounding the shit out of it.
So I think that has a lot to do with the amount of needle hang you have. The more needle hang that you have coming out of that cartridge, then the less you should be pressing.
I think it's just an overall like kind of like the idea of like the fact that the light goes off of a square and disappears. It's the idea that I have to get it into the skin because the needles are sharp. The machine's going to do a lot of the work for me. I shouldn't have to be stick and poking with a Bishop running underneath me.
No.
That's what I mean. But it's just like that fundamental concept because I went, like my first apprenticeship consisted of me walking in the door. I showed them my leg, which had 2 tattoos on it. And they said, go make money. Like that was my apprenticeship for the first time. And then I went into a second apprenticeship and I just got everything I said. I don't know. Why are you doing it that way? I don't know. Why is it, what am I doing wrong? I don't know. And then I went into a third apprenticeship and same thing. And then the fourth apprenticeship, I finally got someone to sit down and actually sit next to me for like, I think it was like 20 minutes. And that was in the street shop and they were running the machine at 9.5. And they told me just to basically pack the shit out of it. And that's more or less the extent of my training. And I learned like sterilization and I did a lot of the grunt work, but at the same time, as far as actual hands-on training or actual, other than just watching, I really didn't get anything.
You can get a lot from watching.
I definitely agree.
That's
but
part of the reason, because like in each of my apprenticeships, much like yourself, I think I had someone sit down with me for maybe 30 minutes and say, okay, here's how you're going to pack color, right? Here's how you're going to line. Here's how you're going to do this. And no explanation, just here's how you're going to do this, right?
Right.
So like, I've had to learn myself a lot of the different techniques I've been able to establish. You know, from
No, I
lining with
definitely,
like a lot of needle hang to lining off the tip of the cartridge, to lining with like needles and steel tubes, to lining with needles and disposable tubes. I'm going to use a different technique for each. You know,
I
if I'm
definitely,
packing a lot of color with a big mag, or if I'm
but
doing very light, soft black
all
and
of
gray
those,
work.
every single one of those things involves understanding the fundamental concept of how to get it, how deep to go and how to get it into the skin. Like without that, I was basically effed for 9 years, if that makes sense. And now everything's
Well, I
going in
mean, I
like,
don't even think that that has a fundamental concept of how to get in, like how deep to go, because I'm not consciously thinking of, am I going exactly this far in?
it's not so much that, it's like the one apprenticeship I went into, and um they looked at my work and they're like, you're running your liner too deep. And that was
Okay.
across the board. I was like definitely running it deep and slow because of the problem that I was saying. And then but I don't know. I don't know what I'm saying. But like maybe it's in the canon, but as far as the fundamental, there's got to be a way to explain better how this stuff works than just figure it out. It's just you and the skin alone. Like there's got to be a way. Um, to do it. That's why I invented the flow prayer, and I think I told you about that once. 7 things. If you do them, it'll solve any problem somewhere along the line. I don't know why it works. I don't know if it's like it just gets rid of the fear, but that's what I give to anyone that I have to help. I give them that because it's better than nothing. Like just to have something to cling to, something to be like, okay, do these things. And like I learned from the A to Z guide.
Yeah. Huck Spalding's guide.
Yeah, I learned that, and I tattooed
So
Tinkerbell on
uh,
my leg, and
that
we
is
went.
that is a very good place to start. That will give you a baseline, right?
Yeah, I agree
That's what
with
I
you.
call like the baseline. From there, you can go in any direction. You can go up, down, left, right, backwards, forwards, right? But that's usually like the fundamental baseline guide.
I get
I
that, but
remember
like,
when I first came across that as well. One of the guys I was learning from during my first apprenticeship, the only guy that actually really helped me a lot, sat down and he said, you read this book, you understand everything that is in this book because this book is your fundamentals.
I was told it was the tattoo Bible, and then I had to carry it with me everywhere.
Which makes sense,
Yeah, it was
especially from like old school guys. It makes a
yeah,
lot of sense.
hardcore traditional shop. Um, and it did, yeah, and I cleaned it, and there's things in there like the part where it says like there's like a squiggly line, and it says if you get this, your machine's too fast, and if you get this trail out, then it's do this, but just those little fundamental things. But I don't know, it's like,
So it sounds to me what you're really having an issue with is troubleshooting, right?
well, I wasn't until you told me the needles were sharp. That's what I needed to know
Very much are.
for nine
That was,
years.
believe it or not, when I was first told that, it was like an aha moment as well.
Mhm.
I was like, oh,
They are sharp as hell. And I knew that. It didn't,
now it doesn't really click until someone says it.
yeah, it's like it didn't, like I knew they were sharp. I just didn't think about it as being how much that changes the approach. It's like, I don't know, you give someone a gun and you say it's loaded.
Yeah.
You changes your whole mindset. not to compare Dunn to anything we're doing, but yes, and now I can I can like tell the differences. I use peak needles, but I also have like these like the budget ones, the boxes of 50s for like walk-ins and stuff, just for practicing. But like I can tell, I can adapt to them now, and I couldn't before because they were all just like I didn't even register in my brain that I should be concerned with how sharp the different needles are.
Well, I think the one thing that really did it for me, and this was pointed out to me by a guy that ended up working across the aisle from me at a show. He's like, "Oh, what brand of cartridges are you using?" And I'm just like, "Dude, I use whatever I can get my hands on. Like I've tried everything. Like blah 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 blah. I'm like, they're all pretty much the same." And he's like, "No, they're not. Check this out." And he's like, "Grab one of your liners, right?" And I'm like, "All right." So I grabbed, I think it was like a 3-liner. He's like, come over to my table real quick. So I went over to his table, and he's like, "Now take your cartridge out of the packaging." I'm like, "All right." And he took one of his out, grabbed the same configuration. He's like, "Push the plunger back, right? So that needle's sticking out a little bit." Did that. He said, "Now take the tip of your finger and put it against the needle," right? So like, this is my finger, obviously. Take that needle and put it right against the needle as it's coming out. He's like, "Now wiggle it side to side and up and down. See how much movement there is in it?" And I was like, "Yeah." And then he showed me his, and his didn't move at all. He's like, "That is the difference between an accurate line and a not accurate line." I'm like, "Oh." So that's one thing I look for every single time now when it comes down to, oh shit, I'm running out of this grouping and my normal brand is out. What do I do? Now I just start thinking, okay, I'll pick up a couple of these and I'll check them out and I'll try these out. And the first thing I do is give them the wiggle test every single time. And if they move at all, if they move too much, I'm not using them. I will literally throw out a brand new box of cartridges.
I don't know. You can really pick any needle. I like the stabilizer and the peak so that it's always. And there's other ones that kind of have that, but like the liner doesn't wiggle around in that cartridge because of the stabilizer. And ever since I started using those, I just feel more confident. Like it's like I have a tool that I can actually count on. So I've just stuck with them ever since.
Yeah, lately I've been picking up a lot of the Cheyenne craft cartridges, some of the Tatsul next gens, like their Gen 1 bug pins and their Gen 2 bug pins.
And I bought my PMU makeup needles from Needle Jig for the first time. And those are cool. I only got a couple of them. It's like a 0.6, like 9 mag or something. I don't know. It's some ridiculously small.
And are you using those with regular pigments?
No, that's for my permanent makeup clients.
Ah.
Yeah. I took that class in July. And I learned how to do lips, eyebrows, and eyeliner. I haven't done a ton of them, but it's I don't know. It's a cool industry. A lot of
definitely a booming industry.
Badass women. Kilpatrick, and it's cool. I don't know. I feel like I don't want to say anything bad. When did that start? Well, we don't have to talk about that, but it's different. It's so much different. Do you know a lot about the permanent makeup?
Nope.
Like, I don't know a ton either, but it's like a different pigment because it's like thinner skin. So it's like micro pigment and it only lasts a couple years. It doesn't last because it doesn't go as deep. And you can't use tattoo pigment, or if you try to run a line for like the eyeliner, like it'll just, that's not good. It's hard to get used to. It's almost like if you were trying to do like a pencil drawing, just whatever the faintest line you can make, it's more like that, and it's less like actually going into the skin. It's weird because it's weird. It's almost like this super thin layer of skin, like super thin, almost like a piece of like plastic wrap. And you kind of just stick the tip of the needle into it, and then you just kind of move it back and forth. You don't make lines. So like instead of making a line, you go like this.
Right.
Really fast, very shallow, just barely. And like there's people using just one liners. That's it, 1s and 3s.
Well, yeah, because the goal is to create a hair thin line.
Yeah, and just it's like, but it's so hard to do. Like the first lip one procedure I did took forever. Pull it up. And then once it heals, I didn't take into account the color of the skin, like once it would heal, like the color of the lips, like if it had an undertone or anything. So it looked great going in, and then I had to correct it. It's just like, it's craziness. I haven't even dived into that enough to really even talk about it. I'm trying to find my first.
Yeah, that's a whole world of different shit that I have no clue about.
It's craziness. It's just the middle of the color wheel. But that's the first lip procedure that I did. You can see it.
Oh, cool.
Cool. But it's intense. Getting right up in there. But the one that makes
I've got a friend of mine that's really pretty up there as far as permanent cosmetics go. And I keep asking her every time, I'm like, explain it to me like I'm 5, right? How do you do this? I was like, yeah, I could do that. You know, the one day just kind of joking around with her. And she's like, let me ask you this. Do you know how to do makeup? And I said, nope. And she's like, then you wouldn't be able to do this.
that's kind of where I was at, but I don't think it's just a color wheel. Like at the end of the day.
I think it's a bit more than that.
But it really is. I think it's have you ever heard about the Kilpatrick scale?
Nope.
The Kilpatrick scale, she like breaks down, I forget how many skin types it is, but she's managed to break it down into certain amounts. Because
yeah, I think there's a little bit more that goes into it other than the color scale or the color wheel. I think it's you have to understand like underlying muscle structure, bone structure, what the client wants as far as what shape, what their opinion is as far as what look are they going for, right?
Yeah, there's definitely.
So there's a bit more that goes into
I mean, I started makeup really late, but I don't know a ton about it. But I might know more than someone who doesn't use it at all. Like I consider myself like beginner, intermediate with makeup. But yeah, it's advanced concepts, but at the same time, if it's like as far as like for brows, right? There's all these different inks, and the brows can turn blue, they can turn all different colors, right? Like just over time. But for the most part, if you just want like a fail-safe way to fix them, what I was taught was just to use a red orange. Because like wherever they've gone wrong, kind of down in the one part of the color wheel, if you do red orange, it's just gonna pull it out of there. So like that's your best bet as like a fail-safe. So they sell all these like magic fixers and correctors, but then you can also use real correctors, like where there's an olive and there's a, you know what I mean? So I don't know. I feel like it's definitely not as easy a transition as I thought it was going to be as far as the theory behind it. But technique wise, it's like if somebody gave you the correct, or me, the correct color, I think either one of us could pick it up pretty quickly. Like I've already picked it up. Basically, I just don't know which ones to use.
I'm not saying I couldn't pick it up. I'm saying I wouldn't want to.
No, I just mean technique.
I mean, technique wise, I could probably pick it up.
Like a decade of tattoo experience, body art experience definitely made it an easier transition for me than the other people in the class who had never touched a machine before. But yeah, I don't know what I'm doing with these things. I think I need, there's some videos on YouTube I need to watch where he actually explains how the light works on the form. I think that's where I need to go next.
And if you really want to understand form really well, your best bet is to go out to like AC Moore. Well, not that AC Moore's around anymore, but Michael's or Hobby Lobby or any craft store and pick up some styrofoam shapes.
Right.
They should have styrofoam, cones and spheres and cubes and stuff like that. Pick those up and then sit down and create your own light source, right? Put one in a dark room, shut off all the other lights, make sure there's no ambient light, put one single spotlight on it from different directions and then draw what you see. That is going to be the best way to understand that.
I think I need an explanation though. I want, like there's these videos that I have saved that I never watched where it just says how to control the sphere and light, and he goes through and tells his thoughts on how the light works. I feel like that would just be so much easier than just sitting and staring at spheres and not understanding. I think there's got to be some kind of dialogue that can, if someone had told me that when light goes over a hard like edge, like on a cube, that would have saved me the last year of headaches with hard edges. Just a very basic, like even like a 1 minute. Like, what are your thoughts on how light hits a cube? What are the most important things?
I look at where the light source is coming from on the cube and I draw what I see.
Draw what you see, but what if you can't see anything? That's what I mean.
Well, coming from experience of drawing so many cubes, you start to understand that, oh, okay, if my light is coming from this direction, I'm going to have these shadows in these places.
So it's more
have this highlight in this place.
Theory. So it's more of a memorizing thing.
Pretty much, yeah.
Like when I'm doing like a cube and I'm imagining that the light is hitting here and it's hitting, like half of it's hitting right there and half of it's on the other side. I'm trying to imagine the light coming over the cube like as a whole entity. I'm not just looking at the shadows and stuff. Like I'm trying to actually do the 3D model in my head.
Don't think of it as a 3D model. Think of it as just what you see. And that's why I'm saying, like, if you get a cube, a styrofoam cube, and you light it, all will be explained. You won't need any explanation. You'll be able to turn around and say, oh, I see where this is going. I see what happened here.
I get that.
Yeah, it's the hard way to do it. Yeah, it's the long way to do it. Yeah, it's going to require a lot more time and effort, but you're going to gain such a better understanding of it than any YouTube video could ever possibly explain.
But
it comes back to the old adage of, you can you can give a man a fish and he'll eat for a day, but if you teach a man to fish, he won't ever go hungry.
It's true.
YouTube can give you the fish,
But what if he starves to
but if
death?
you go out and you want to
That's what-
learn
that's-
how to fish, that's the best way to do it. You know, put in the effort, put in the time, and see what comes out of it. I think you'll be surprised.
It's hard to do that.
Hard to do what?
I'm glad that I'm doing. It's just maybe I need to focus somehow.
Well, at the end of the day, I think it all boils down to how much time are you willing to invest into something. You know, if you're willing to invest the time, effort, and energy into one given thing, you'll be damn good at it. And you'll understand every aspect there is of it. But if you don't want to put in that time, effort, and energy, and you're going to try to find a quick and easy explanation, that's great. And that might work for certain circumstances, but that doesn't mean that you really have a fundamental understanding of it.
But
You know,
no,
then again, maybe I'm old school like that.
but then I mean, the way I see it is that learning something is definitely something, an accomplishment, but turning around and teaching it to someone else, if you can't do that, then like that's for me, getting it out of me and on into someone else, like to help them, is what allows me to master something or to really fully understand it. Like if I spend all this time learning how to draw a sphere or a cube, and then someone says, how did you do that? And I say, I don't know, go draw some. I feel like that's like, isn't that what the teacher, I mean, am I just supposed to point them in a direction? But there's got to be something that can be taught in regard for.
There's basic fundamentals that can be taught, but at the end of the day, whether or not they're actually going to absorb that information is a totally different story.
No, I get that.
Whether or not they're actually going to comprehend what it is you're trying to teach them is a different story. You know, we can go through and sit down, and I could sit down and try to explain to you, you know, Kantian philosophy. But does that mean that you're actually going to comprehend to like a true level what I'm talking about?
Yeah, but think about if I hadn't had that introduction from you, then where would I be? I wouldn't even know what it is. It's that
Right.
it's I think that's the topic we keep coming back to, is that initial. I don't know if it's just direction or if it's just that initial where you have no core concept at all as to what the hell is going on. And how do you get that from nothing? Like, how did it take me 9 years to figure out that the needles are sharp? It's not because I wasn't practicing. If I don't understand what's going on, like what if I miss something like the side of the cube or whatever, and I just miss some core concept and I go for another 9 years. And if I'd watched one of these videos, maybe I could have just understood like like the first time I heard the word form shadow, things like that. Like if you've never heard that before, it just doesn't exist in your mind.
Well, maybe you might not understand the terminology, but if you do it enough times, you'll understand what it is and how to achieve that.
But at the
And
same
the reason
time,
why I bring that up is because look at the old masters. Look at Italian Renaissance artists.
I have no art knowledge, but
Da Vinci. Michelangelo, Raphael, Donatello.
Right. I
Think
know
of
who-
all of the Ninja Turtles, only the people that the Ninja Turtles were named after, right?
right, but I don't
They
know
didn't
what.
have someone to sit down and explain this is this and this is this. Their masters said, go draw this,
Right.
right? And they weren't given explanation. They weren't given this is this, this is this,
That's
this is this.
That's a
They
sink or
were
swim.
just told, go draw it.
That's a sink or swim situation, and that's
Well, it's the philosophy of learning by doing. And when you learn by doing, you're going to have a better understanding of what it is you're attempting to learn
it's
than if
true.
you're just told.
Yeah, but I'm always the kid back in the corner that's still trying to figure out how to open the paper.
Well,
I don't know. It's like my brain can process too many things at once, too many variables.
you know, I'm pretty sure that if you can understand programming, that, you know, learning by doing is a pretty simple concept. You know, it's like when you work with a new computer system for the first time, right? You sit down and you play with it and you figure it out, right? And you learn all the ins and the outs, and it's like, oh, in Photoshop, yeah, I know exactly how to do that, right? I can do that in a heartbeat, right? Why? Because I've sat down and I've played with the program enough that I've remembered where that feature is. You know, same thing with art. Learn by doing. You didn't learn Photoshop by just picking up a manual and reading a manual. You played with it, right?
Yeah, and then I would get frustrated and watch a tutorial, and then I would be good to go.
Okay. So there you go. But you at least sat down and played with it, right?
But I'm playing with cubes right now, and I'm not getting anywhere. But I have to go get a cube, I guess.
Yeah, go buy a cube and light it.
Yeah, I had one. I left it at the proper. Yeah, let's find a box, I guess.
Find anything that's a cube. A book
Yeah,
is
no.
a cube.
I'm gonna get that.
Grab a book, light a book, right? Grab a couple of books until you have an approximate square.
So I've got some
You can
coarse cartridge.
find a way to make it work.
I've got a light. We're cruising now. All my problems are being solved.
Actually, if you really want a good way to go through and you don't have
I'm drawing a quartz cartridge
and you
box.
don't have like anything available, go through and download the app Handy.
Oh yeah, I remember. Yeah, they have
Handy has basic shapes in there and you can change the lighting.
Okay. That sounds cool. Yes. Okay, I'll try it. Is it expensive?
No, I think it's a couple bucks.
Okay. I'm just asking.
If it costs anything.
My budget is non-existent. Yeah, that did help a little bit, maybe. No, it didn't. Trying to figure out what happens when it hits a corner.
Well, I'm probably going to head out in just a few minutes.
It's all good.
So why don't we go through and do some quick sign-offs? Go ahead and tell everyone how they can reach you.
Well, they can reach me at wynncolor.com. All my social media, digital design education program, which is what I excel at, are on there.
Cool. And I'm going to go through. And let's do this. Cool. So thanks for joining us today, guys. I was trying out a new setup. Sorry for the audio issues earlier. My name is Jason Leeser. You can catch me every Sunday at 1 p.m. hosting the live Reinventing the Tattoo drawing group. I also like to try to join in to a couple others throughout the week. Thank you very much for joining us today. As a reminder, tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, I will be interviewing Chris Dunn of Deadly Tattoos in Canada. I'm trying to encourage everyone to stop by. His bold, illustrative style is absolutely unreal. If you like neo-trad stuff, if you like illustrative tattoos, if you like, anything on more of the bold side, you're definitely going to want to tune in and check it out. So until then, and until next Sunday, take care, guys. Have a wonderful night, and I will catch up with you next week.